Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us in our studio audience here for That's in the Bible Live. We appreciate your joining us in our study, and we believe very much that we will spend this time together and it will be beneficial for everyone. You know, on this show, That's in the Bible, we explore the Bible's teachings on just about any topic imaginable. And questions come into us from places all over the globe. And we always get the answers to all these questions directly from here, the Holy Scriptures, also known as what? The Bible, yes. You're a very funny audience. I can tell this is going to be a very nice session. Okay. Our question for today, let's take a look at it first. It poses a very interesting question that we'll address and talk about today. Let's take a look at it.
So many church, but so many Bible, but so many teach the people. Why you don't teach the people one thing? It looks like one Bible is just like coming from God.
Well, we thank Mr. Hazoda for that really wonderful question. We'd like to thank him for his question, and we hope we receive many more questions as we go along. It's really not surprising, you know, from someone or anyone viewing Christianity from outside of it, that they would be, well, perplexed or even confused about when they see all of the different denominations, all the different churches, all the different religions, so a full spectrum of religious beliefs, all under the umbrella of so-called Christianity. And that's very confusing to many people. So we're very thankful for that question, because it's a really relevant question in the minds of many people nowadays. It's our belief inside the Church of Christ that there is only one true faith, one set of true doctrines, and one true service to God. Not many. We believe in that adamantly. Only one basis of faith, one sole basis of faith, and that, of course, is the Bible. Although the Bible may be translated, it's been said in an article not too long ago, this actually been translated into 1,854 different languages and dialects all over the world. It remains for us the absolute sole basis of our faith. Why do we believe that to be the sole basis of our faith? Why do we believe that there is only one faith that one must embrace when wanting to serve the one true God? Okay, let's turn to the Holy Bible and begin researching the responses to the important question posed by Mr. Hazoda. In Ephesians chapter 4, verses 4, 5, and 6, the Bible says this: "There is one body and one Spirit, just as you were called to one hope when you were called, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is over all and through all and in all." You know, there's a lot of times in that verse where the word one, O-N-E, one, is used. I'd like to ask the studio audience here this afternoon, who's reading the verses along with us here on the screen. How many faiths are there based on what we just read? How many faiths? Studio audience?
One.
One faith. How many bodies? Studio audience?
One.
How many Lords?
One.
We believe there is only one true faith. Why? Because
that's in the Bible.
We believe that there is only one true God. Because
that's in the Bible.
We believe that there is only one body. Because
that's in the Bible.
Because that's in the Bible. And what's being referred to as that one body? We often read in Colossians 1:18 here in this program. He is the head of the body. What is it? The church. One faith, one body, one church, according to the Holy Scriptures. And that's what we believe. Again, once more, studio audience. Why? Because
that's in the Bible.
All right, so here's the thing. If all of that is so clearly indicated in the Holy Scriptures, the Bible, why do things get all twisted up? Why do things become confusing? And why do people become so perplexed as they view the religious scene of the world nowadays? What's happened? What we read was not so complicated. It was pretty direct. You agree?
Yes.
All right. So what has transpired? Allow me to cite this time from the writings of Apostle Peter. 2 Peter chapter 3, beginning in verse 16. Speaking of this, as he does in all of his letters, there are some things in those epistles of Paul that are difficult to understand, which the ignorant and unstable twist and misconstrue to their own utter destruction, just as they distort and misinterpret the rest of the Scriptures. Why does it get all so perplexing for so many people who are trying to serve God and understand the truth? Answer of the Bible, what was it? Because there are preachers who are misinterpreting, there are preachers who are twisting, there are preachers who are misconstruing things that they see and read. And of course, therefore, leading people away from the truth. And they do so because they're not understanding what they're reading. So what was the warning? Verse 17, we'll just continue reading. Let me warn you, therefore, beloved, that knowing these things beforehand, you should be on your guard. You know, dear friends, that's a very important warning from the Lord. That's not from me or from the kind individual that invited you to join our study here this afternoon. That's the Lord himself through the Apostle Peter saying, let me warn you, you need to guard against something. What? Let's continue. Let me warn you, therefore, beloved, that knowing these things beforehand, you should be on your guard, lest you be carried away by the error of lawless and wicked persons and fall from your own present firm condition, your own steadfastness of mind. What was the warning? The warning was that there could be those that would lead you or try to carry you away from the spiritual condition you need to remain in. It happens because there are preachers who are teaching but not understanding what they are teaching. So what do they end up doing? They end up misinterpreting, as we all read it together, they end up twisting the message. So, by show of hands, if I may again address our studio audience, okay? Studio audience, how many of you have seen preachers maybe online or just maybe turning on the television on a Sunday morning, and you could see them preaching the most confusing and perplexing ideological principles and trying to convince people to believe in. How many have seen such kind of confusion that we just read being done by preachers in the world nowadays? A lot. A lot. And that's why the question from Mr. Hazoda is just such a common question. Why so many religions? Why so many things being taught? And there's the Bible's answer. There are those who are twisting and teaching false things. Now the question now we pose together is this. Well, if that's what's transpiring, why Why is it that there are so many people that are becoming so easily victimized and led by such individuals who have unscrupulous ideologies and unscrupulous intentions when they put and hold the Bible in their hand? Why are people allowing themselves to become victims? Okay. You with me on the question, right? Yes. Follow along as God inspired the Apostle Paul to give an answer to that. In Apostle Paul's letter to Timothy, here in 2 Timothy chapter 4, let's read together verse 3. For the time is coming when people will not tolerate, endure sound and wholesome instruction. Allow me to pause. What was the prediction of the Lord here through the apostle? A prediction about people. What did he say? They're not going to tolerate sound doctrine. They're not going to want sound biblical truth anymore. So what did he say would transpire? But having ears, itching for something pleasing and gratifying, they will gather to themselves one teacher after another, to a considerable number, chosen to satisfy their own liking and to foster the errors they hold. Why do people become victims? Because they embrace this exact principle forewarned by the Lord through the apostle. They gather for themselves preachers who will tell them what they're itching to hear, or preachers that will tell them what they believe is okay. Let's just consider one a very obvious example, and that's the mantra of Protestantism. What's Protestantism? What's the mainstay of Protestantism? Anybody? Faith alone. Yes, sir. Exactly. Faith alone. Just believe, just accept Jesus as your Lord and personal Savior, and then automatically that's it. You'll be saved. Now, person will hear that. Consider the verse that we just read together, right? People will gather preachers that will tell them what they're itching to hear. Faith alone? I just need to believe and I will be saved. That's easy. Well, I like it. I think I'll go join that religion. No longer discerning whether or not that principle is true or not. So what then have these preachers done in, not in our measurement, but in the measurement, or let's say, what have these preachers done in the eyes of God? Well, it's not for us to give answers to these questions. We just turn to the pages of the Holy Scriptures for the answers. This is always our way. Mark chapter 7, verse 6 and 7. Jesus answered them, "How right Isaiah was when he prophesied about you. You are hypocrites, just as he wrote. These people, says God, honor me with their words, but their heart is really far away from me. It is no use for them to worship me, because they teach human rules as though they were my laws." So they may have tried to honor the Lord, but they failed. Why'd they fail? Well, Mr. Hesoda noticed, Mr. Hesoda, the one who, on the video, who asked the original question, and maybe there are others in the studio audience or in the online audience viewing our program, or on Direct TV, channel 2068, also viewing our program. They're here who might have that same kind of question. But here inside the Church of Christ, we adhere to a very, very important biblical principle which has been missed by all of those preachers and has been noticed then by Mr. Hesoda and, like I said, so many others. They've witnessed it cause so much perplexity and confusion in organizations, all claiming to be under the umbrella of Christianity. They have missed an important biblical principle which we've got to hold tight to. And we do here inside the Church of Christ. What principle do I refer to? We are not allowed to go beyond what is written. Whose rule is that anyway? We turn again to the Holy Scriptures for a response. Apostle Paul wrote the following, 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 6. Now, brothers and sisters, I have applied these things to myself and Apollos for your benefit, so that you may learn from us the meaning of the saying, do not go beyond what is written. Then you will not be puffed up in being a follower of one of us over against the other. Beloved audience, whose rule is it? Is it our rule? No. We believe in this rule. Why? Because
that's in the Bible.
Oh, what was the rule? Don't go beyond what is what?
Written.
Don't go beyond what is written. You can't add to it. When we pose questions, we just got to turn to the Holy Scriptures and get the answer from God. He inspired more or less 42 different chosen writers over a time span of so many years to compile this truth so that when we pose questions, we don't have to try to dream up our own opinionated answers. It's there. You're inside the Church of Christ. This is how we learn. This is the way that we are taught. It may not be the most entertaining format, but we are preserved from the opinions of any individual. And we are therefore tied to the truths of God recorded here in the Holy Scriptures. We always adhere to the instruction that we have just read together. Go beyond what is written. Everything that we believe has to come from the Holy Scriptures. So I pose this question to the audience once again. Anyone know that that was a commandment of God before we just read it there from the Bible and put it up on the screen, that you could not go beyond what was written? How many knew that rule of God before we just read it together? Raise your hand. More or less about half, okay? So there's the answer to Mr. Hezoda's question. Half did not even know that that was a rule. And because half, and then so many others in preachers and such in this world also do not yet know that rule, they just go and preach whatever they think, their own idea of right and wrong, good and bad, and that confuses and perplexes people such as Mr. Hezoda and so many others to wonder, why is Christianity all under the umbrella of Christianity all teaching so many different things? Well, there you go. There's the Bible's answer. Because there are people out there teaching things that have been added to it or subtracted from it and confusing people. So upon close examination, you will see that many churches and religious groups and preachers, like what was mentioned by the individual who posed the question for today's episode in that opening video clip, is noticing the preachers that are just not following that rule. Instead, what's being put forth, sad to say, are teachings inspired, and we heard that as we read Mark chapter 7, teachings inspired by man's own rules, not God. And these falsehoods have been inserted into every Christian professing religion since the very beginning of Christianity. Except for one. The true Church of Christ, built by Jesus. And beloved guests, an audience online and on DirecTV, today, here in this studio audience and that online audience as well, you have found that one true Church of Christ established by Jesus that does adhere to the instruction to use the Bible as the sole basis of our faith. Do not add to it, do not subtract from it. You must continue, therefore, to study with us. But for now, that's all we have time for. Okay, that's all we have time for. But may it inspire you to continue learning more and continue studying with us here inside the Church of Christ. We want to thank so much our studio audience for joining with us, taking the studio tour, and posing questions as many of you have done. There is no question that is too basic, no question that cannot be answered by the Bible when it comes to our lives and when it comes to our salvation. And if you'd like to know more about the basic fundamental teachings found inside the Church of Christ, please visit. I'm pausing because I want to ask you to memorize this just in case you haven't yet. Please visit incmedia.org. Okay, say it without me. Visit
incmedia.org.
There you will find many more of these episodes of That's in the Bible, as well as episodes of The Message. You'll find doctrines and teachings in the Church of Christ that are done in Spanish, in French, in German, in Italian, etc. And there you will find the beliefs we embrace inside the Church of Christ. These are the things that we believe because
that's in the Bible.
You can send your video questions, just like the gentleman did there. Send your video questions to answers@incmedia.org. If you'd like to see your questions answered here, of course, on this program.
That's in the Bible.
Oh, you're getting slower, but we're almost finished now. You're getting a little slower. Oh, that's okay. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you again next time. Thank you for joining us. Thank you. Thank you for joining us, guys. Thank you. Who didn't get a t-shirt? Who didn't get a t-shirt? Thank you, guys. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming. Thank you very much.